The actual personnel cycle is on page 59, but we're going to talk about actually taking action as we go forward. On page 45 in the book, it says, reviewing your goals and objectives. It says, what part of my goals and objectives require action? And so this is part of why we start the way we do and we build the foundation. I passed out all of your goals and your quiz from last week. The quiz should be used as a study guide for the exam. Your goals, the only reason I wanted to see your goals is to see if you could lay it out in a format that was specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and then was it going to be tangible. The actual goals that you guys wrote yourselves aren't all that important to me. I don't mean to diminish what your goals are, but I really have no interest in knowing what your personalized goals are going forward. Hopefully, you'll use that tool to help you become a better manager in your personal life, in your business life, any goals that you happen to have. I also passed out in front of you a quiz, okay? And I'm hoping that you guys will fill that quiz out right now. Are you using your book to do the quiz?
One page, action page, yeah.
Okay. So let's go ahead and complete the quiz, but let's not use our book. Okay? Let's see what you can recall from last week and see how good you are at recall. Because when you take an exam, you're not going to be able to use your books. Okay, Ashley, if you don't mind, you can go by and pick those up. Rachel stepped out of the room, but I'll ask this question. Why do you think I like to give you a little exam like this or a little quiz before we get started?
Retain.
Retain information or maybe recall what we talked about last week. So in week 1 we said we were going to have a philosophy of management, and that philosophy of management is 3 letters. P-O-A. P stands for?
Planning.
Planning. And planning is what?
The essence of management.
Thank you. Very good. Okay, and then we talked about organization. Organization is what? The structure of the plan. And then what was the third one? Action. And action has 3 parts, right? What are the 3 parts? What are the 3 segments of action?
So, staffing, leading, controlling.
Good. See, if you open your book and turn to the page, all the questions are fairly easy. Right. And when we talked about planning, we said you have to remember the 5 M's. Hopefully you guys got them all right on your quiz. Now I did realize that since we're doing this class online, if I give you the answers to the quiz right now, the people watching will get the answers to the quiz before they take the quiz. Okay? But how many of you remember the 5 M's?
Manpower.
Yep.
Methods.
Methods,
Money. Machines.
money, machines,
Materials.
materials. Very good. Looks like you all got those correct. As a matter of fact, you've already answered one of the other questions. Second question you got, the best tool, good. And then looks like your tactics and strategies are all correct. So you did much better this week than you did last week.
Definitely more prepared.
Yeah, I definitely studied up.
Yeah.
for this.
I even made a little index card,
Yeah,
like and studied.
yeah.
So,
Good. So you're starting to learn. See, that's what we do. We sort of fall into a pattern of the way we manage our lives. Some people like to get up early in the morning. Some people like to sleep in. Some people are very active in their lifestyle. Some people are kind of sedimentary. They kind of sit around, text, tweet, play video games. So there's all kinds of different patterns that we develop. And the same thing happens in education. Same thing happens in management. So you have to be careful. You have to be creative and innovative. If you remember last week, we sort of ended with the action steps. And what was the first action step that we started talking about? Staffing. Very good. And how do we staff?
recruit.
Well, we looked at the personnel cycle, right? And we started talking about recruiting and interviewing and hiring. So let's pick up right there and see if we can't go a little bit forward. The hallmark of great managers is the ability to identify the right person for the right job and to train those employees to succeed at the jobs they're given. The hallmark of great managers is to be able to identify the abilities for the right person for the right job and train that person to carry out those responsibilities. When we talk in terms of recruitment, you might assume that the very best seeds can create the very best gardens. But if you pick out bad seeds, what are you going to get? Bad results. So, if you understand that as a manager, to be successful, the engine of the company really comes from the employees, the manpower. If you don't have the right people in the right places, you're going to have to do a lot of the work yourself. Remember Sam Service? Remember what a difficult time he had getting the right people in the right jobs? So recruiting is very, very important. Right here I have 10 steps for a good recruiting plan. Will you pass those out, please? And this is just a helpful tool for you to take forward. I don't know when you guys are going to get your first management job. Hopefully you'll keep this book, you'll keep some of these handouts, and you'll refer back to it as you start to develop as a manager and you don't turn out like Sam Service. We talked about interviewing.
You can use this.
Pardon me?
You can use this.
Oh, okay. We talked about interviewing. The interview has but one purpose, and it's to select the very best individual from a pool of people who are recruited for that job. And I think last class we had, didn't we have someone talk about, was it Ariel that was talking about she had 4 or 5 different people interviewing her, and they all asked the same question. And why do they do that? Because each one of those people that are interviewing her might have a different opinion about how she would fit into that particular job. Pool interviewing.
I have a
What-
question.
Yes, ma'am.
So she was saying how she is gonna respond differently, or like a variation of her answer for each person. Does that make you come off as like inconsistent, or does that look better?
Well, I would say that it would look inconsistent, personally. And remember, I tried to stress that a little bit when I talked about the God questions to verify the authenticity of the responses that you're giving. Typically, when you're interviewing with multiple people, you want to be sure that you answer the questions consistently and accurately. They want to know the true person. They don't want someone that just makes up answers. The interview itself must answer the following question: can and will this applicant successfully perform the job functions? And then finally, the best tool for interviewing is what?
Or job description?
Job description. We talked about the very best tool for a manager in the selection process is the job description. I passed out a few examples of what job descriptions might look like. And I think we went around the room and we talked about, do you have job descriptions in your current jobs? And some of you had policies, but you didn't necessarily have job descriptions. Interviewing again. Good managers use good tools, and the best tool is, again, the job description. Hiring. The actual hiring process is nothing more than the administration part. You bring people in, you get them to fill out their forms, you get the data that you need, you get them to sign off on particular policies and forms. If you remember, I passed out some examples of what we do at Malco. We have a book, a handbook, and in the back there's a section where the employee actually signs it, the boss signs it, supervisor signs it, we date it, we put it in your personnel file. That's the hiring process. Each company will create their own checklist. Every company is a little bit different. Okay, here's a good question for you. You know how I am. I like to do little riddles and jokes and games. Let's read this right here and see what happens. Imagine that you're driving along in your car. It's a wild, stormy night. You pass by a bus stop and you see 3 people waiting for the bus. An old lady who looks like she's about to die. An old friend who once saved your life. And the perfect man or woman you have been dreaming about. Now, in your car, okay, it's a 2-seater. There are only 2 seats in the car. Which one would you choose to offer a ride to, knowing that there could only be 1 passenger in your car? Now, this question was offered, and there were over 500 applicants for this particular job. You could pick up the old lady because she's going to die, and thus you'd save her life first. You could take the old friend because you owe him a favor, he saved your life. Or this would be the perfect chance for you to meet your perfect significant other. What would you do?
First of all, I don't let strangers in my car, so that eliminates 2. So, my friend.
Old friend. Okay?
I picked old friend too.
You take the old friend.
I'd probably pick the old friend.
Old friend.
Yeah, I would say old one.
Old friend. Sharon?
Old friend.
Old friend. We're back to that thing we did the first week about 85% of the people all think the same way. You guys all think the same way. Guess what? None of you got the job. The candidate who was hired had no trouble coming up with this answer. He simply said, I'd give the keys to my car to my old friend and basically tell him to take the old lady to the hospital. I'd stay behind and wait for the bus with the woman or man of my dreams. Again, never forget to think outside the box. So you guys were always thinking the first clue in this scenario was you could only take 1 person in the car. What if you didn't take the car? It's interesting, the last semester, we had somebody got it right. Somebody said, I'd give my keys to my best friend, let him take the old lady to the hospital, and I'd stay with my dream boat, okay? And then create an opportunity. All right, how do we prepare for training? I think I passed out this matrix. You remember this last week? And we had the columns, and it was almost like an Excel file. We talked about what was the method? What were we trying to accomplish? Okay? What was the objective? Then we talked about the people that needed to be involved in the training. We talked about how long is it going to take? And if you remember, we went around the room and everybody gave a scenario about the Malco greeting, right? So let's see how good we did with training last week. Do you remember the script?
Yes.
What's the script?
Welcome to the Malco Theater. Would you like to try the combo number 1? It comes with a free refill of a large drink and a large popcorn.
Good. So I think we did a pretty good job training. If you remembered it a week later and didn't know that I was going to ask you that question, we accomplished something, right? What is management? What is
Oh, we just did this.
management is accomplishment. We accomplished something. We got one of you to remember what that scenario was. So evidently the training was pretty decent. You know, we've been, at each class, I've been trying to show you a little piece of a different type of concession equipment. What did we do last week? Snow cones. And how long did that take?
10 minutes.
It didn't take 10 minutes for us to teach 14 people or 12 people or 7 people how to do snow cones, right? Was it fun? Yeah. So anytime you want to do a training program, let's try and think of creating an environment, okay, where it is a little bit more fun and is not quite so stressful. When you create a training plan, you have to find the essential parts of the job that you're going to train on. What was the essential part that I tried to drive home with snow cones?
The crushing of the ice.
What about it? That was really
You
good.
have to do it
All the way
completely.
up.
You have to do it completely. What else did we talk about?
The hose.
Yeah, don't let the hose.
The
drop.
hose, good. What else did we talk about?
Safety precautions.
Safety, exactly. So see, I think we got it. The training program last week, you understood how important it was to crush the ice, how to completely push it down, but more importantly, don't stick your hand in there, and how sharp the blades are. We talked about the reasons those machines are made out of plastic now as opposed to metal, and you use plexiglass as opposed to real glass for safety. Good. So when you create a training plan, you want to essentially identify who does what, how they do it, and when they do it. One of the things I realized after we left, I didn't teach you guys how to clean up the machine. So I left out the sanitation part. So as a trainer, you know, I have to go back and evaluate what was the success rate and what did we not get done right. And in that particular case, I was a little short on teaching you guys how to clean up. All right, so you're going to prepare a job breakdown. You're going to list all the important steps. You're going to list the key points. You're going to cover the whys and the hows. Do you remember what I said about why and how? If you teach your employees why they do something, you're probably only going to have to tell them once or twice. If you teach them how to do something, what are you going to do? You're going to have to tell them 7, 8, 9 times. People remember why they're doing something, not always how. And again, up on the screen you'll see a slide. I think this is in the book also. But what is the training need? What position are we training for? So if we're at a hotel and we're going to train for someone to work on the front desk, what's one of the things we need to do? The position would be what? Front desk. What type of training do they need?
Customer service.
Customer service. Excellent. Excellent. What kind of customer service? Let's break that down.
When they need communication skills,
Communication skills.
they need empathy.
Empathy or compassion. Excellent. You're getting extra credit for all this, Marley. Keep it going.
I mean, I'm trying to think. They need to know how to handle conflict.
How to handle conflict or problems. How about appearance? Do they have to have a pleasant appearance or welcoming appearance? A nice smile? A pleasant greeting? You didn't talk about how to handle POS. So if you're working the front desk, you have to be able to find out what room they're going to go in. Do they want a king size? Do they want twin beds? Do they want to be on the high floor or a low floor? Smoking or not smoking? All of those things. So if we were going to do that, we could list right here the position and then the type of training they need in each category. Can you do all the training in one day?
Not
No.
effectively.
Not effectively. So we have to go back and repeat some of this. So even as much as we did the greeting last week, even in our company, I still have to go back and check and see if our employees have a smile, they make eye contact, they have a pleasant greeting, and they have a script that we ask them to follow. So for example, the typical script is, welcome to Malco Theaters. Would you like to try our #1 combo? It's popcorn and soda, and it comes with free refills, right? Each one of you that tried it said it slightly differently, but you basically said the same message, right? And I kind of like that. The reason I like it is because it doesn't seem like we're robots. You're programmed, you can only say one thing. That makes sense? We need a little bit of a personality that we pass on to our customers. And all of our customers are slightly different. Some people are going to come in and they're going to be in a bad mood. It's freezing cold outside. They had to park their car, 2 blocks away to get to the front desk. They're freezing cold. They're not comfortable. And you say, hi, welcome to Holiday Inns. We're the happiest hotel in Memphis.
37.
Yeah. How about a little heat here, partner? Right. Okay. So what is your training plan? And every training plan will be a little bit different in every organization. But for example, you may start with a new employee orientation. And I told you at Malco, every Thursday night, every new employee has to go to orientation before they can start their job. But we give them a little history about the company. We tell them what the culture is. We talk about the uniform and why they wear the uniforms that they wear. We talk next about individual worker programs. So if you're going to be popping popcorn, we want you to know how to pop popcorn correctly. One of the things that I joke about with my friends in this industry is that the most expensive piece of equipment we have in movie theaters, for example, is the popcorn popper, right? The most profitable item we sell is popcorn. Did you know that? Yeah. And the popcorn popper is always in the back room, right? Or in the back. And so what do? A new employee, we don't want them to screw up anything. So we take and we put them on the popcorn popper. We give them the most expensive piece of equipment, the most profitable piece of item that we sell, and we give it to somebody who is untrained. That make sense? No. Why do we do it? Why do we do it?
To teach them? I mean.
No. I'm not saying we should do it. I'm saying, why do most people in the industry do that? They don't have enough confidence in the employee to do the job they hired them for. I don't want them out in front of people. They're new. They're going to say something stupid. They're going to spill the drinks. They're not going to make change right. Let's put them back here in the corner where nobody will see them, okay? And let them do a menial, I'm calling it a menial job. It's not.
Yeah.
But let's give them something that's repetitious and let them just keep doing this and stay out of the way until they get familiar with.
And that doesn't work.
No, it doesn't.
It does not work at all.
No.
Because
No.
I'm experiencing something like that too. It's like I just got a new job, and being new somewhere, I know that I'm not going to go on and get 30 hours a week. But I feel like if I was there a little bit more consistently, I would be able to catch on a little bit faster. But I feel like that's what they're saying. It's like, oh, she's new. Let's not put her on yet. She's not ready. And then in that situation, it's kind of the same. Like.
So have you talked to your supervisor about it?
Well, I'm going to talk to them tomorrow when
Yeah.
I go in and just say, I thought we had an understanding when I got hired here that, I'm in college, like I need to be working, consistently working 5 days a week if I can,
So I'm an employer, okay? What you said to me was very important. And people like you, I want on my team. because you just express an attitude because you want to learn, you want to be activated, you want to be engaged, and you want to be a part of the success. That's what I heard you say, okay? What you just said, you might say to your boss, might come across as negative. What was the first thing you said? Do you remember? I thought we had an understanding. That's what you said.
Oh, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't.
That put me, the boss, on the defensive immediately. What you would better say is, I really like this job, and I know I'm new, but I can be more effective if I get more training. How can I engage myself where I get up to speed faster? Boom, I'm putting you to work. That makes sense? As opposed to, I thought we had an understanding.
Well, yeah,
I wanted to
I
come to
wouldn't
work here, I
mind.
wanted 30 hours. You told me I was going to get 30 hours. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So be real careful as you approach this, because sometimes we say things with the best intentions, and yet it comes off as a little bit negative. All right? Skilled worker certification programs. So for example, in this industry, once we get an employee orientated and we put them to work, and then we put them in an individual program, say you're the manager of the Redbird Stadium, where you're going to handle all the concession operations for AutoZone Park, all right? That's your job. What you need now is skilled worker certification programs. In other words, we're going to send you out and we're going to get you a CCM so that you are a certified concession manager. And you have the foundation and the ability to network and lead. Then we're going to try to get you to be a team leader and create your own training programs within your own organization, because you've gotten outside the box of AutoZone Park and seen what a minor league baseball team does. You now know a little bit about football stadiums because you took the CCM class. You know a little something about amusement parks and why they sell the things that they do. And you can kind of engage those practices within your own organization. The skilled worker certification could fall, for example, TIPS program. Anybody TIPS certified? Do you know what that is? It's alcohol awareness. So all bartenders in the state of Tennessee have to go to a program where
Oh,
they're taught
ABC
about
card,
yeah, ABC
Oh,
cards.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
that is-
TIPS.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
ABC cards. Food Safe. Are you familiar with Food Safe? Yeah, if you work in some states, it's mandatory. That happens in Tennessee, it's not mandatory. But would you want to do that anyway? Just because it's not mandatory doesn't mean that you don't want your people aware and trained on sanitation practices. Right. Supervisory development programs, management development programs. I told you that when I worked for Hyatt, I went through what they call Hyatt Train. And for 6 weeks, I would go to a different department and learn how to work in that particular department. Doesn't mean that I was going to end up in, in marketing or in the rooms department, rooms division. But I did learn that as a food and beverage person, how these different departments work and how that might affect me when I'm dealing with customers. And of course at the bottom it says outside seminars, inside seminars, so forth and so on. So, how do you train? We're going to prepare the employees for instruction. We're going to put them at ease. You're going to explain the job and its importance. All of this is in the book. Get them interested in learning the job. So just a sneak preview. Anybody look in the back of the room today?
Cotton candy.
Yeah, we're going to do cotton candy. Now, how many people want to learn how to make cotton candy today? Okay, I see 3 hands, 4 hands, 5 hands.
Can't do
Yeah. Why do you want to learn how to make cotton candy?
Because it's cool.
Yeah,
Because it's cool and it's
You don't get
fun.
it every day.
And you don't get to eat it every day. Yeah, and it's free. And it's sugar, right?
Yeah, that's part of it.
So how do you get people excited about learning how to do inventory?
Let them try it.
Yeah, let them try it. That's good.
Then they learn to hate it.
Yes. See, that's the point. Some things are easy to like. Some things are a little more challenging.
Yeah.
So how do we get our employees to like doing inventory?
Give them incentives for it, like prizes.
Yeah?
No, I mean, I don't know.
Yes.
You don't really.
So it's hard. What I'm doing with you guys, when I ask you these questions, I understand you probably have never done this before. what I'm trying to get you to do is try to start thinking like this. Because when you get in a management position, you're going to ask yourself these same questions. So you're kind of rehearsing right now for this next position, this growth that you're going to go through. So get them interested in learning the job. We're going to present the job. You're going to show the job breakdown. We're going to explain and demonstrate one step at a time. You're going to explain why and how. So when we train people on our popcorn machines, one of the things that we do is we ask the first question. What goes in the kettle first, oil or the corn? The oil. Everybody say oil? Okay, wrong,
No.
wrong. So the kettle gets to be about 450 degrees. And oil, all oils have what they call a flash point, where it will catch on fire at a certain temperature. So here's Kevin, right? And Kevin's, new on the job, and we haven't taught him the whys, we just taught him how. What you do is you take the corn, you put it in the kettle, you turn the kettle on, okay? You let it get up to temperature, you put the corn in, you push the oil button one time, it pops. When you hear it quit popping, you dump the kettle, you kind of rake it a little bit, and then you put it in the bag. Got it, Kevin?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, pretty easy, right? So here's Kevin. Kevin's there, and he's kind of doing what he's supposed to do. And then he sees Jessica over there getting some ice. And while the kettle's getting hot, he goes over and he's kind of chatting with Jessica and trying to make his little move on her and get her number. And it's going pretty good so far. And Jessica has to get out front with the ice, and he goes back to the kettle. And he pushes the oil button. What happens?
Catches on fire.
Catches on fire. Yeah. So if you teach people that we put the corn in first, because when the corn goes in, as room temperature or cold, it drops the temperature of the kettle. It goes back down to about 350 degrees. Push the oil button, it goes in, you don't have a risk of fire. Why do we push the button one time?
You don't want too much oil.
If it's over right enough.
You put too much, so it's automatically calibrated, okay, to put exactly 16 ounces of oil in. And if you hit it twice, it gets 32 ounces of oil. And what happens to the corn when it pops?
Doesn't pop fully.
It doesn't pop fully, that's correct. But it's all saturated with oil when you dump it. It's dripping, okay? And so we basically wasted our time trying to pop popcorn. So I've kind of showed you the why and the how. So when we go to the Paradiso and we put you on the popcorn kettle and we go through the step-by-step procedure, okay? What do you do first?
Turn the kettle on.
Turn the kettle on. What do you do second?
Put the kernels in.
Put the kernels in. Why?
To lower the temperature.
Lower the temperature or prevent a fire.
Or
Okay, good. What do we do next?
then put the oil in.
How much?
16 ounces.
How do you
One
know it's
button.
16 ounces?
One button.
One button. Just push it once. Yeah. We're not going to ask you to calibrate the portion controls. We're just going to ask you to punch the button one time. Good.
That's cool.
We do the same thing with ice. So for example, when we train on how to make a soft drink, we tell our employees that we put in 2/3 ice. Why 2/3?
So they get more drink than ice.
No? Why 2/3?
It's just your standard.
It's our standard. Excellent. Some people put in half. Some people put 3/4 of a cup of ice. So what happens if you put in a half a cup of ice? How much fluid goes in?
More.
More, exactly. If you put in 3/4, 75%, how much fluid goes in? Less, because it's displaced by all the ice that's in there. Now, some customers will say no ice. What do? No ice, because you're going to make the customer happy. But we want consistency in the business. And so we say if we put in 2/3, everybody does it exactly the same way, all our customers will get the same beverage. That make sense? That's why we do it, and then we show them how. All right. So right now we're stressing all the key points on popping popcorn or making sodas or doing snow cones, and we're going to do the same thing with cotton candies later. Instruct clearly and patiently, give all the information you want, but no more. Don't give them too much information. So for example, if we were talking about the popcorn kettle and how to pop popcorn, would it be important for you to know that there are 3 elements in the bottom of the kettle? heating elements?
Not
Why
super
not?
important.
It's not important to you because you're not going to be maintaining that machine, okay? You're going to know if the popcorn doesn't pop right. If like only half of it pops and you're getting a lot of old maids and unpopped popcorn, hopefully you'll raise your hand and tell your supervisor this is not working right. Now, if you're in the maintenance department, what do you need to know? Yeah, absolutely. So that would be a different piece. And then we're going to give everybody a tryout performance. Much like we did last week, we're going to do the same thing this week with cotton candy. We want you to do the job. Again, why and how. Stress the key points. I'm repeating myself. We want to encourage you to reinforce the proper actions and give me back the proper information. There we go. We're going to correct any errors or omissions they make. We're going to give full feedback. So as you're teaching someone how to do a job, hopefully when you get your job at the front desk, do you guys know that she has an interview today at the Peabody for an internship? Yeah. Yeah. So hopefully Jessica will go home and read her book on interviewing and how to answer questions. And she now knows that setting goals are important. So when they ask her a question like, what do you see yourself doing 5 years from now?
What's the internship position?
It's just with their like program, it's a job rotation program, so I would do like front desk and sales and housekeeping and
That's awesome.
like a week of each or 2 weeks of each or something like that.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
It seems awesome.
Yeah, now let me tell you this. I will tell you that if she goes, she gets this internship, and she does a great job, what's going to happen?
She's gonna get offered a job.
She's going to get hired. Yep. Yep. So this is your chance. This is your tryout performance. Okay? They're going to find out how you interact with the guests. They're going to find out how you interact with your superiors. They're going to find out how you interact with your peers. Are you a team player? Are you trying to help people? Or are you going to go in and say, I thought we had an understanding. I'm going to come here.
Come on. Come on now.
Hey, I
He
burned
did
the
you like
popcorn.
that?
Yeah, he burned the popcorn. Yeah. So we see the good news is we're going to have a long-lasting relationship, right? We're going to learn how to work together. And remember, you're not going to get it right the first time, most likely. You're going to have to do it several times. And that's why I like to coach people on interviews. I tell people to go on every interview you can if you're looking for a job. Because even if you don't get the job, it's a great rehearsal for the next one. And when you come across the job you really want, you will have had some practice for it. And then this is the hardest one for me. You got to have patience. It's easy to have patience on the first mistake, and it's easy to have patience maybe on the second mistake. But by the third and the fourth and the fifth time, now the supervisor or the trainer is being challenged. And they probably should look at, I am not telling them what they need to know. I made a mistake as the trainer because I didn't give you the right information. I didn't teach you the whys as much as I did the hows. Follow through. Encourage questions. You want to check back frequently when they're doing their job. You want to let them know how they're doing. You're doing fantastic. I think we talked last week when we were doing the snow cones, and some people would put, 1 ounce of syrup on there, and I said, that's all you need. If you put too much on there, what happens? They spill it, it runs down the side, it gets, yeah. But everybody wants to give the customer a little extra. Every employee knows how expensive that snow cone is. And sometimes you got to let people know you're doing it exactly right, or you're putting a little too much syrup in there. All right. And I tried to stress this. Now you had homework this week. Where's your homework? I should go collect your homework. We stressed this last week. A part-time worker has as much impact on the business as a full-time worker. We talked about the stand employees, right? And they have more interaction with the customer than typically a general manager. All employees play a crucial role in the success or failure of any operation. Now this is a key component. Remember this. Most food service operations, and I'll even take this out and say hospitality, recreational food service. Most operations spend less than 1% of their payroll dollars on continuing education and sending people out to learn. I know a very large management company, I don't want to mention their name, you might get in trouble. They are really, really good at managing sports facilities, baseball stadiums, football stadiums, so forth and so on. They have in-house training. They do a good job training and bringing people up from within the company. But continuing education, they supply no money whatsoever. And they tell people, if you want to get a CCM or a certification for recreational food service management, you have to pay for it on your own. Question.
That's what my company does.
Your company does the same thing?
Well, kind of, like, because I've asked if I can go to training to be CertSafe certified. And they're like, oh, okay, you can go pay
Yeah.
for it yourself. I'm
Yeah.
like, no, like, I work in your kitchen, you guys should pay me to go do that.
That makes sense. And I could even see a share program where, so let's just say it costs $75 to do that,
Mhm.
okay? And you quit tomorrow. I paid $75 for what? As the manager of the organization. What I might do is say, what I'm going to do is you go take the class, you pay for it, bring me the receipt, and if you're here 3 months from now, I'm going to reimburse you that $75. Is that fair?
Wouldn't
Yeah.
that be cheaper than hiring a whole new employee if he gets acquitted?
What do you mean?
Because
Like-
training costs for a whole new employee is much more expensive than
Than
the
just
dollars for the
paying
class.
for-
Yeah, I understand that, okay, but I didn't understand your question. Did you mean not to pay him back? Or
Yeah, not to pay him back, cause like if he's like, I'm trying to get ServSafe certified or
Right.
whatever, and they're like, well, we're not gonna pay for it, then he's like, bye. Wouldn't it be easier just to do that than to
Yes.
have to like replace him?
Yes, that now, I thought that's what you were getting at, but I wanted
Sorry
you to
if I wasn't
clarify it.
clear.
Yeah, it could have looked like either way. But the point, you're 100% correct. A lot of times, I will tell you this, that terminating an employee means the manager is not doing their job. Most of the time, you look for an issue, okay? If you got a problem, you work with that employee and you try to fix it. Because if we have to go back through the personnel cycle all over again and recruit and then interview, how much time does that take? And then the hiring process, and it costs thousands and thousands of dollars. And to your point, Rachel, it'd be easier to give him the $75. We do that with all of our employees. Everybody that has to get an ABC card. We pay for it on the front end. Okay? But we expect you to work for us for at least 3 months. We let you use your money on the front end. You pay the $100 for the ABC card. Turn in a receipt. We'll reimburse you. That whole process takes like 2 to 3 weeks. That make sense? So you know, the employee knows, that there's an expense involved. They feel it, right? Remember that tangible part of the objective? That's tangible. I can feel it. Right? Now I have to give the money, but I'm going to get it back, okay, if I'm loyal to the company and do what they ask me to do. So, yeah, you brought that up. That's good. Okay? But back to this. They spend less than 1% on continuing education, training, and human resources. The top companies like Marriott, Holiday Inn, they spend somewhere between 3 and 5% of total payroll dollars. In other words, almost 5 times as much on training because they want to retain their people. I know FedEx does that. I know International Paper does that. I know AutoZone does that. Corporations here. Orientation is a prime factor in getting a new employee off to a good start. So, do you have a job description? Do you have a program outline? Do you want to take the time? Do you get a matrix together and say, okay, these are the people, this is how long it's going to take, this is what the objective is, and then are you going to evaluate? Are you going to be able to say, okay, this is how good we did? For example, the snow cones, I gave you the example. I didn't show you guys how to clean up, did I? So I had to go back and evaluate my own practice. That has to be in the next step. I have to make a note. All right. And finally, do you care? So in the book, you're going to see a little phrase. The way employees now expect to be compensated is different than the way employees were compensated or expected compensation years ago. Okay, so back in the 60s and 70s, what do you think people wanted out of their job? I'm going to go to work. What do I expect from you?
Paycheck.
Paycheck, money. What else? What else do they want?
Good working conditions?
Working conditions. Was that high on the list?
I don't know.
What was,
Are we still on that training page?
No. I'm just asking you for your opinion.
okay.
I'm asking you to guess, really.
Oh.
Because I don't expect you to know anything about the 60s.
I'd say benefits,
Benefits. What kind of benefits?
healthcare, retirement, all this.
No.
Okay.
It kind of rolls out like this. The first thing they wanted was right, compensation. How much am I getting paid?
Right.
Okay? The second thing is, do I get vacation days? The third one was kind of like, do I get paid if I'm sick?
Did they do that back in the 60s?
Yes.
They did.
Yes. Yeah. And so, if you got a job and they said, okay, you're going to come to work for us and we're going to pay you $10,000 a year, all right? And you get 1 week's vacation and you get 3 sick days a year. That's company A. Company B says, I'm going to pay you $10,000 a year. I'm going to give you 2 weeks vacation and you get 5 holidays and you get 5 sick days.
So,
Where are you going to work?
B.
Yeah, B, right. And over time, it's changed. So through the 90s, early 2000s, what employees were looking for was something a little different. Okay, it wasn't compensation anymore. Why? We had this thing called minimum wage and fair wage practices. And so everybody had a scale on what they were paying people. So you knew you were going to get paid, say $30,000 a year. All right? I'm getting that. Now I want to know what?
Benefits,
Benefits. What else?
all the stuff we were just saying, vacation days, sick days, stuff like
No, those
that.
started to take a back door because all companies started to offer pretty much a standard the same.
Maybe
How do I,
bonuses.
what else can I do?
That's it. Upward mobility. In other words, if I take this job and I make $30,000 a year and I get my 2 weeks vacation, okay, I get my 5 holidays, I get 5 sick days, how long is it going to take me to move up and get a raise and take on more responsibility? So that was a change. So people didn't go necessarily asking how much you're going to pay me. It was more about how fast can I move up and how can I take on more responsibilities? How can I be more involved in the company? Today, employees ask 3 questions. And it's in the book. Anybody find it yet? Do you know what the 3 questions employees ask? The first question they say is, do you know me?
Do you care about me?
Do you care about me? And can you make me better? Those are the 3 questions employees, millennials, the next generation, that's what they're asking employers now. Do you know me? So for example, in my particular case, does my employer know that I like education? That I like to do community efforts, community service? Do they allow for that? I want to give something back. Okay. Do you have any hobbies, Rachel?
Yes.
What are they? May I ask?
I like to skate,
Okay.
skateboard, and I tie-dye stuff.
Tie-dye stuff.
Yeah, and I go to the gym.
You like to work out, exercise,
Yeah.
fitness?
Yeah.
What else?
Watching TV, watching movies.
Yeah, you like to watch movies?
Oh, I love doing puzzles.
Puzzles,
I've got a puzzle
good.
going on right now.
Good. See, these things are, we can get, in some cases, I don't want to sound like I want to get personal, okay? But if you're going to work for me, if you tell me that if I know you like to skateboard, I know you like to be outside, okay? And I also know that you like exercise. I need to allow you time to do that, to refresh, recharge your battery. Does that make sense? So I shouldn't give you all day job, working all the hours during the day, because you can't really skateboard very good at night. not typically safe. I mean, you could, right? But it's
And
better
then-
to do it during the day when the sun's out, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Okay. I need to allow you time to exercise. That's good. Being physically fit's good. You like to do puzzles. Okay, so you mentally, you're like, that's right, mentally engaged. Yep.
There, trying to stick with it at
Yeah.
least.
So that's what I mean about do you know me, okay? Do you care about me? Do you care about what my needs are? For example, I tell the story about an employee that we had, and I'm going to use the name Mary. Mary was a great employee, a little bit older, more mature, and would come to work every day on time. She was scheduled from 10:30 to 2:30 every day. She'd come in, help open, run the first set, got off at 2:30, went home. One of the most loyal, on time, best uniform, most respect for people. Well, in that particular time, we decided that we would change some of the schedules, okay? And so instead of having two people come in at 10:30, we had one person come in at 10 and one person come in at 11. So the person that came in at 10 was kind of doing the setup work, and the person that came in at 11 was really getting engaged in preparation and serving the customers. Excuse me. So they put Mary, because she was a little more mature, on the 10 o'clock schedule. And lo and behold, she started coming to work about 15 minutes late every day. Wasn't like Mary at all. So an employee comes late 3 days in a row, what do, Jessica?
You ask them what's going on.
Ah, excellent. But this manager just wrote her up because she's late. Said, Mary, you're late 3 days in a row. I'm giving you a written notice. I've already told you, last 2 days, you're late, be on time. Wrote her up. Mary said, I'm so sorry, I'll do better. I'll try. Next thing you know, Mary's late, Mary's late, Mary's late. Manager calls her in. Mary, I have this signed statement here. We gave you written documentation. You gotta be on time. You're still late. I'm giving you a 3-day suspension because you can't follow company policy. Mary left for 3 days. I happened to go into the building and I said, where's Mary? Well, she's suspended for 3 days. Mary? What did Mary do? Well, she's habitually late. She's late almost every day now. And so if she can't get it fixed, we're gonna have to find somebody else. I said, did you ask her why she's late? Well, no, because it's not important to me. I don't want to get involved in their personal business. She's scheduled for 10. Okay. I said, call Mary in. So Mary came back. Now, Mary was really on the edge of being terminated. So we sat down, the three of us, and I said, Mary, you've been such a good employee for us for over 5 years. You're always on time, you've got a great attitude, you show a great deal of respect for the company, you do everything we ask you to do, and now you're late. And she said, Mr. Eder, I have to ride the bus to work. She said, the bus arrives at about 10, and I have to walk from the bus stop to the theater. Says, when I was scheduled at 10:30, I was always 15 minutes early. When you schedule me at 10, I try my best, and sometimes the bus is early, and I can get here about 5 minutes late. But really, that's my problem. I don't have transportation. I have to ride the bus, and so I'm doing the best I can. That's about, do I know the employee? That manager could have saved a lot of grief and taken care of a lot of problems if he'd have fixed. You're not crying, are you?
No, not an inch.
Poor Mary.
Yeah, so it's about, do you know me? For example, Ariel's not here. She told us last week that her grandfather is very sick and she might not make it. Okay? Her grandfather passed away. I know why she's not here. I have some sympathy for her. Okay? We have to know the individuals that we're working with. What's the last one? Can you make me better? And that relates back to what I was talking about earlier. Is there upward mobility? I kind of translate a lot of this to high school athletes that are getting recruited for colleges, for teams. Those high school athletes want to know, do you know me? Do you care about me? And can you make me better? Because I want to play in the pros, or I want to get my degree. I want to be a professional. Maybe not in that particular sport, but in a career. So remember that. When you get out and you get your first job and you start interviewing and you start to select people, what do people really want? Do they want to get paid? They're not gonna work for free. Yes, they wanna get paid. Do they want benefits? Yes. They wanna know if you have a 401k plan, and when does it kick in? Do I get vacation days? Will you pay for any of my continuing education? Okay, do you care about me? Can I get better? Can you make me better? All right. Why don't we do this? Why don't we stop here, and we'll finish this up, and then we'll move into leadership, and come back at 10:15. Any questions?